Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to What is Fabrizio Inking. I am Fabrizio Aiello, and today I am inking Horace H. Hoover. So I'm currently working on issue 4 of Horace H. Hoover. I have pencils about halfway done, so it's a good time to switch to inking. So this is actually page 1. Spoilers, although there's not too much going on here that should be an issue. I will go over the process a little bit, just in case anybody's interested. So whenever you draw a page of a comic book, of anything, you can either ink directly on the pencils, or what you can do what I did, which is you scan in the pencils, you convert them to blue line, which is essentially just making sure every color that you print out is blue. You print that out and then you ink on blue line. So that's what I like to do, just because there's certain papers that I like better than others for inking, and some papers I like better for penciling. So that is what I'll be doing today. And I did want to just give a shout out and thank everybody for subscribing recently. There's been a lot of new subscribers and viewers, so it's been very cool. I appreciate that. One thing I also like to do is, before I start inking on the finished page, I like to print out sort of like a junky version of it just on like typing paper, and I just kind of use that to warm up, and then when I feel 5 or 10 minutes in, sometimes I'll jump to the good stuff. That's what I'll be doing for the next few minutes. Alrighty, sounds good. Hey Logan, how's it going? Sunday. Yeah, it is. Some people call this a very pleasant, sunny, warm Sunday, but I'm not a big fan of warm, sunny days. Yeah, I like overcast, gloomy, rainy, snowy, you name it. So, I think it's because if it's kind of rainy and overcast, being inside and working on stuff feels a little more like you're not missing out on going out and enjoying the weather. So yeah, gloomy weather. So one thing about this typing paper, again, this is really, you shouldn't be inking on typing paper unless you can have it. It's really just to throw a few lines down on the page. Make sure my inks are the right viscosity. I can either add water or add some other inks if I feel like they're not right. And then I'll just take this paper and essentially use it to clean my brush and get a point on the inks. Geddes, how's it going? At work on the Wee-Hoo bus. Only have time to hit the catch you on the there. Thanks for popping in. I appreciate you just even saying hi. It's nice to get back to pages for the comic book. Moving forward on that. Past couple of weeks have been a bit kind of like retroactively having to go back and revisit things that I thought had already been done. So I prefer to move forward. I don't really like redoing things and revisiting things unless you have to. So back to making progress. All right, so now I'm on the final paper, which this is Eon board, and I believe it's 100-pound paper, which isn't too thick, isn't too thin. It's thin enough that it goes through the printer and it doesn't cause a problem. I do have, I think it's 130 or 160-pound paper, which is a little tougher for the printer to take. So this page, as you can see, is a character and a lot of books. So something like this where there's a lot of repetition, you just gotta bounce around a lot, because if not, you don't want to get bored, because as soon as you get bored, you start trying to hurry up and rush it, and then get sloppy. Sasquatch Getty's. Nothing funnier than seeing your medic partner confused as to why an artist is shouting me out on YouTube. Yeah, I can imagine that scenario is surreal. John's long box. Hey, fruitcakes for all. Man, I wanna show that, but I think that would be a spoiler. So John is coming out with a comic book campaign to be announced soon. Heroic Tales, and I just finished an ad that's going to be in the comic book, featuring Horace H. Hoover and some other special guests, and it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do. Very old school 80s sort of feel. $4.19. Is that the official date? That is awesome. There is something just very satisfying about taking an old style ad or comic book or something that when you were originally looking at it, you didn't really pay that much attention to it, because it kind of blended into everything. Everything was 80s, right? It was the 80s. You would read them, but it wouldn't pop out. But to go back to it and sort of craft your own version of that is really fun, because you just get to play in a sandbox that most people don't. If my approval in the next few days. Cool. Yeah, that'll be exciting. It's the first time, I think, it's the first time I've actually done other people's characters, which was kind of wild. It's not something I'm used to doing. A little nervous, a little nerve-wracking to some degree, but then just kind of hope that it works out. And again, the context of it being an ad, an old comic. You know, if you looked at some of those old ads with Cap or somebody, you know, I don't know how true they stayed to those characters. It was all in service of the ad anyway. So it's almost like even the mistakes feel right, because I don't know how much editorial input ads received at Marvel. So, yet again, I'm drawing a lot of books. I've really been looking at book binding, like traditional book binding. There's a bunch of videos online. I'm a little obsessed with it. I'm going to have to try some traditional book binding. Once I get obsessed with know that it's coming. I won't let it go. Once it reaches a certain point, I'm like, all right, I at least have to try this particular thing. Thanks, John. Is that better? How about now, Joan? Yeah, let me know. I have a completely new setup. I'm just really trying to get this working. Yeah, I'll listen to it later and see what the deal is. Oh well. Yeah, if it's uncomfortable or just annoying, just let me know again. I'll use this volume and see how it works. Looks like it's clipping. Sorry, everybody. Yep. Okay. Last change. Let me know if this is okay. If not, I might have to cut this short and kind of play around with the volume, see what's going on. I even did a test, but things get tweaked. Easy Comic Reader. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. Yeah, if my volume is too low or something, just let me know. I'm kind of playing around with that a bit. Cool, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if anybody, I don't know. I mean, if you haven't seen, if you're not on Twitter or Instagram, I did post a redesign of essentially the cover of Horace H. Hoover issue number 1. So the image is the same. The image that I posted was the same as far as the actual picture, but I redesigned sort of the logo and the layout, and it's a very different layout than sort of than anybody would have seen when I was with my previous publisher. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. I will be posting the new design for issues 2 and 3 today sometime. And I'm really happy with them. It's actually the design that I had originally done a long time ago, except I tweaked it. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm excited to get the variant cover as well. It's interesting looking at your old artwork. You know, everybody looks at their old artwork and sees all the mistakes glaringly. But like you can't just ignore the work that you did previously and just keep redoing things. So you just kind of have to accept that that's where you were at that time. And some people hopefully liked that artwork and will continue to like it while giving another try at it, using everything you've learned since that original drawing. That's kind of a rambling answer. Yeah, so the alternate covers will kind of sometimes I need to stop talking when I'm making. Alrighty, yeah. So alternate covers. I will be redrawing issues 1 and 2 covers. Issue 3 is going to be the one that I have planned. That some people may have seen already. That is going to be the cover. Just with a new design, new logo, new comics imprint. The comic imprint that I've picked was Gloomy Wood Comics, and if you look closely at the design, it's sort of a tree, shape of a hand, claw kind of thing. The story behind that is, I could just say I thought it was a cool sounding name. That's not entirely true. The beginning of Dante's Inferno is he comes across a dark wood, and Dore, the famous illustrator that did Inferno, the title of one of his images is Gloomy Wood. So I saw that and I thought, Gloomy Wood's pretty cool. It's actually a little cooler than Dark Wood. So I looked at the original Italian translation, because sometimes translation and interpretation are two different things. And I'm like, well, maybe the literal translation is dark, but the interpretation is gloomy. My copy of Inferno has the Italian and the English right next to each other. It's a very cool copy. I highly recommend it. I know most people don't speak Italian, but if you do speak another language, it's really interesting to see them next to each other and how somebody approached the interpretation. So after looking at it, yeah, I mean, I do think dark is more accurate, but gloomy, with Dore using gloomy, I went with that. Yeah, that's my story for Gloomy Wood Comics. The logo turned out pretty cool. Really like the logo. This might be one of those live streams that I babble and then I let it sit on YouTube for a day and then I take it down. So the books in the background, you want to be less detail, less contrast. So I'm very aware that there's sort of there's the foreground, and there's like this segment of books in the foreground, and then you have the background. You can see the books are much smaller, and even in the pencils, I broke the lines. So breaking the lines is another way to show atmospheric perspective. As I get in this sort of very repetitious stage of just drawing books, I still have to keep that in mind. Going back to the ad for Heroic Tales and Horace H. Hoover, I do have the inks all recorded. So I did record the inks from beginning to end. I didn't post it on YouTube. I think I will at some point in time. I didn't want to do it live just because it was during the week, and I just thought it would be easier for me. But I do have those. I think it's a total of 4 hours to do the inks. So maybe I'll post a video speeding them up, talking over them. Maybe if you want to join, John, maybe that might be a fun conversation. Oh, Renato Camilo Art. Very good. Thank you. Thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. Ben, how's it going? This is looking great already. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I realized my new setup here is it's not very conducive to space. So I'm finding that I have a very small room to maneuver. We'll see. John, I have a magician character that might show up in issue 7 of Heroic Tales. I would like to think he could access HHH's occult library. Oh man, that would be fantastic. Oh my god, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we should talk about how that would work. That would be so cool. Yeah, the more I think about shared universes, and I'm referring to them as loosely shared just because there's not one publishing company or anything sort of overseeing the entire thing, but the idea of a loosely shared universe or universes is really intriguing to me. Even if it is little things that point and reference other characters in other universes. It doesn't have to be some epic crossover or anything like that. But just knowing that these characters exist in the same time or in the same reality, I think is just very, very cool. Flamagante 88. I really like your art. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for popping in. I don't know if this is true. I remember hearing this before, that somebody knows better, but Sherwood Anderson was the first author to really do like a quote-unquote shared universe for his characters, and that Lovecraft was sort of a response to that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Again, I don't know if it's true. You hear things online and people have theories. You don't know if they're true. I always liked Sherwood Anderson, which I thought it was funny that Lovecraft would have done that sort of as a response. Or maybe an influence, I don't know. Yes, the comics. I'm starting reading the second one soon. Awesome. Thanks, Splash Controlled. Thanks for getting the books. I appreciate that. Issue 3 will be out spring-ish sometime. Issue 4 in the fall. And I'll be republishing issues 1 and 2 with some additional stuff, so keep an eye out. But thanks for checking the book out. I appreciate it. One thing about I like the video, people. Thank you. One thing about inking your own work is if you leave some time in between. So, I drew this a while back, and now I'm going and I'm inking it, and you get fresh eyes on it, so it gives you another opportunity to fix things. Like I fixed his hairline here. It didn't quite have that book bug type feel to it, so I was able to fix it in the inks. Oh, it's like a Dutch boy or something haircut, I don't know. Coolio, I'll make sure I get that one too. Thank you. You have an old school Marvel style. Thank you. I mean, that is really what I've always gone for. I know there's a lot of sort of, we'll call it 90s nostalgia going on right now, but it's definitely just not what I like. I'm not saying that I've never liked a book of the 90s, but Just the old school Marvel style. And the thing that I always come back to is just the clarity of the old Marvel stuff. It just comes down to the clarity, and I don't know how they were able to pack so much story, so few pages, and have it just read perfectly. You didn't think twice about, what was going on, who was in what panel, and what came before it, and I don't understand this. Outside of a few exceptions, that just never really happened. Even with, I don't want to call them lesser artists, but not the big names, sort of the second tier names. Even them, their storytelling was still incredible. Is a big compliment. Thank you. Yeah, I know, coming from you especially, and for me, it's, if I could draw like John Buscema, I still feel like the 90s was just 10 years ago. Yeah, I know. It's funny because speaking of the 90s, I just saw somebody post something on Gen X, and that was actually one of those books that I still liked. I don't know what it was. Chris Bachalo's definitely not like an old school Marvel style, but there's something about it that I really dug. And I just saw it the other day. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to paint with a broad brush too much sometimes, but I try to keep it just general. Like the 70s, late 70s, 80s, early 90s. Yes, there's too much image nostalgia now. People talk about their love for 90s image on my channel, and I just nod. I don't want to be a jerk and tell them their feelings are wrong. Yeah, I feel bad too, to be honest. Because I think if you're at a certain age, whenever you start reading comics, and those were your comics, I think it's impossible to like separate that. But then again, you just, if you look at, when I'm looking at very, very old comics that are way before my time, I can objectively look at them and say that was objectively better than X, Y, and Z that I used to read or something. So I feel like there should be a little more objectivity for that, because we all do it. If you look at Frazetta versus anybody, or the old school guys, Alex Raymond and those guys, it was brilliant. It was brilliant work. So I think if we can be objective about that, I think we should be able to be objective about the 90s. Yes, the music you loved in your teens is your music, and the comics you loved as a teen are your comics. Yeah. Yep. But some people were luckier than others, though, because some people were teens when Zeppelin was super popular. I just not bought, it's been several weeks. You know what, I'll pull it out real quick. Horror Mike, who has a YouTube channel, did a collected book of splash covers. Actually, I have it here. And This is like pre-code horror stuff, and it's just like the best splash covers or splash images of all these great old books. And again, these are 50s, 60s, some 70s. It's way before my time, and I wasn't familiar with them at all. But I can still look at them and go, that's an amazing, intriguing, interesting cover, So, as much as nostalgia tugs at us, I still feel like there should be some objectivity. You pull the good stuff from those old books, and you kind of leave the other stuff behind. Except for jazz, that is the music of everyone's adulthood. Kicking and screaming. People get there eventually, though, I think. Yeah, like how people get to jazz is interesting. I was trying to think about how I made my way to jazz. Two of my brothers were in jazz band, right? So I did go to school concerts with jazz, but that was the full extent of my exposure to jazz. And then many years later, I'm watching Monk, TV show Monk, which is one of my favorites. And the first season they had the intro was like this gypsy jazz guitar part. And at the time I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what gypsy jazz was, but I loved this song. And I play guitar, so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna learn that song. It's so catchy. I really love it. I'm gonna learn that guitar part. And then I started finding out about gypsy jazz and Django Reinhardt, and that leads me into sort of that era of jazz, that's an easy sell, like the older jazz. It's not atonal, and it's just an easier sell for most people. And then that led me to Wes Montgomery and Charlie Christian, and then that led me to Miles Davis and Bill Evans and Jerry Mulligan, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of ways to get there, unless you have a friend that just harangues you about jazz and says, listen to this, listen to this, listen to this. I guess that can work too. John, I'm reading the old Warren stuff now, like Eerie and Creepy. I'm odd. Yeah, I have a collection of the Eerie. It's so good. Easy comic reader. In my teens during the late 80s, I was listening to music from 50s, 60s, 70s, so I've been behind the times ever since. No, I definitely sympathize, because like for some reason, me and my friends, we were listening to Zeppelin and Hendrix and 70s Kiss and stuff like that. So we were lucky. I think it was because everybody had older brothers. Somehow that kind of made its way down to us, thankfully. Alex Raymond was before my time, but I look at his work now, and he's one of my current influences. Exactly. Yeah. I don't see why we can't look at that stuff objectively. Jazz and wiki. Yeah, for me, I can look back at certain old comics fondly when I read them as a kid, but I know that they weren't the best by any means as I got older and read other works. Yeah, they kind of float to the surface. The really good ones that you read as a kid, if you go back, some really hold up well, some might not. But the ones that hold up well are just the best. The more you have of those, the better. Easy comic reader. As far as comics, most of mine were from garage sales. So they were older than what was out at the time. That's interesting. So your first experience to comics were older. Yeah, I guess I never really thought about that. I was a young kid whenever I was reading comics originally. My brother collected some, and then they were just kind of laying around. He stopped, and I kind of picked that up. But yeah, we had the newsstand, and that was the only place you could get comics. So I didn't really have a choice as to the kinds of comics I could buy or what I was exposed to. It was whatever was at the newsstand at any given time. So I always joke that I think it's where I got my comfort with like unfinished stories, because I would buy a comic, a Daredevil with a cliffhanger, and I wouldn't see another Daredevil for 10 issues or something. So I just became really comfortable with unfinished stories. I don't know if that's where it comes from or not. I had to get comfortable with it. If not, I would have been the worst kid ever. My childhood, my friend's dad would drink a martini and listen to jazz records while we played with Micronauts on the floor. So I always think back to that classic jazz stuff from the funnest. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. It's very cool. Not liking his hair, but even though I'm not liking his hair, I'm going to finish the drawing, the inks, I should say. And at the very end, if I still don't like it, because right now it doesn't have context, so it looks big, right? It looks intense. Your eye goes right to it because it's all black. So the trick is, if you finish everything and it's still doing that, maybe go back in with whiteout, but don't spend too much time on that now, because the areas around his head will have impact on how a viewer looks at that. You're just unfortunate enough to see the early part of a drawing. Now, if the size and scale still doesn't work, and it is a legitimate, proportion issue, at that point, yeah, you got to break out the whiteout. Although I really try not to use whiteout at all. Said, I was at work the other day and I asked somebody, a younger kid, kind of on purpose. I'm like, so what are the kids doing these days? They reading Russian literature, listening to jazz, drinking absinthe. And he looked at me and I'm like, you didn't understand any of those words I just said, do you? Like, no. Yeah. I know. Kind of random, but speaking of jazz, this was pretty cool. Jeff Goldblum actually has a jazz band, the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra, and he came to Pittsburgh 4 or 5 years ago, which was very, very cool. I've always liked Jeff Goldblum. He's an interesting dude. He's actually from Pittsburgh. So I got to see his jazz band come and play in Pittsburgh, which was kind of trippy. He was really good. Great piano player. He played some classics. I bought my wife a few bottles of real absinthe for her birthday 2 years ago. Wow. Have you guys broken it open? Still drawing books. I'm still drawing books. thing about the 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 books and the book bug and the library is it's a cool place, and I definitely plan on using it again. But now I'm gonna have a little bit of PTSD when it comes to having to draw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. I want a Crispin Glover, Jeff Goldblum, and Christopher Walken podcast. So do I. Yeah, Crispin Glover. Interesting dude. Funnily enough, the ones that held up well for me years later were the Tintin, Gru the Wanderer, Beano, and various 2000 AD comics. Wow, that is a collection. I've never read Tintin. I've always heard it was fantastic, though. I absolutely love Gru the Wanderer. Sergio Aragonis is one of my favorite artists. I have been trying to track down an original Gru page forever, and I can't seem to find them. It's the one thing that is very difficult to find. He has a couple of sketches out there. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. Yeah, he's one of my favorite artists. I don't know Beano in 2000 AD is wild. That would be an awesome, interesting listen, John. Yeah, you know what's funny and sad at the same time is that as soon as you say that, somebody's going to generate an AI podcast with those three actors. And it'll be somewhere on Spotify. Then nobody will be able to do anything about it. I just got I think it's a Tintin collection. It's on my pile next to Tintin. Yeah. Yeah, I figured that's what you meant. Yeah, I've never read it, but I've always heard great stuff. It looks just fun. Wow, it's 3:52. Well, if there's any anchors out there, this is how far I've gotten in 52 minutes. Not far. But like I said, it's a lot of repetition, so sometimes what I'll do is start multiple pages, so I can really jump around from one page to the next. Jason Wiki, indeed, he's an incredibly gifted cartoonist, storyteller. It's mesmerizing to watch him draw. Yeah. He was at a Comic-Con that I was supposed to go to, but didn't. Was it Three Rivers? I can't remember which one it was. Although I never know. I always get not nervous, but I'm like, I don't know what to say other than you are amazing. How do you do that? So, but if he says another one, I at least have to talk to him. Yes, Sergio. We're almost at the 1 hour mark. So I will be posting the new cover design for issue 2 today. When I get off here. I'll post 3 tomorrow. I do have a couple sample prints from a couple companies, but I'm still waiting on a few others before I make my official call. It's a tough decision to make. There's a lot of factors, and obviously pros and cons for each platform. And yeah, I'm really picky about paper and print quality, so I'm sure I'll find something, but it might take me a little bit. You have quite the steady hand with a brush. Been good so far. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, all of my inking is brushes, 100% of it. It's by far the most enjoyable inking technique that I've used. I have to struggle with a brush. Sometimes you have to do with a pen, dip pen, like a nib. And tech pens are just not going to give me the kind of the feel that I'm going for. Alrighty, I think we're good. So yeah, thanks everybody. I appreciate everybody popping into chat, talking. It's always a fun Sunday afternoon, even though it is sunny and nice outside. Just the worst. Yep, the brush goes a very organic line. Yeah, and it's just fun to use for me. So, yeah. And anyway, thanks again, everybody, for hanging out in chat. Thanks for any new subscribers. I really appreciate that. And I will be posting on Instagram and Twitter. Look for more information there. Also, go to HoraceHoover.com for announcements about issues 1, 2, and 3 being published, and some Comic-Cons I'll be hitting this summer. All right. Thanks again, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a good Sunday afternoon. Bye.